For quorum. We're at 9. But Miriam is coming. She will be here shortly. Hopefully she's braving traffic. So this is the informal part of the meeting, and we will go only over information. We are not supposed to deliberate anything. So there's a few things on the agenda that require no deliberation on our parts, but receiving information. And those two things will be the last two events under new business, which is the 60th anniversary event and community engagement. So let's begin with the 60th anniversary event, and I will turn the mic over to E.D. Tucker.
Thank you, Chair. February, what date am I looking for in February? February 10th, we are having our 60th anniversary celebration at the Music City Center. We should have a outline that we didn't get into your packets that will be emailed to you. We have a rough draft of what the program will look like. Some of the highlights would be recognition of past commissioners. We're trying to do a list of all those folk. We're also doing some videos of some of the older commissioners as it relates to their work. We selected a theme that is based on King's last book, Where Do We Go From Here, Community or Chaos? We think it's fitting for the environment that we're in now, and could also be a larger voice around how that's still a relevant question for today. We're going to need everybody's help to really make this thing be a real thing. When you get the outline, if you have any questions, you can get back with us on it, but we'd like to get everybody's help in really making this a huge celebration of the 60th anniversary of MHRC. And if there's any particular questions, I can try to ask those. Crystal, will you make sure that we email that document to all the commissioners, please?
While you are considering questions, I will go ahead and follow up on appointing an ad hoc committee for the 60th anniversary. And I would like to appoint Commissioner Burton as the chair, Commissioner Stringer-Holmes, and Commissioner Charlton as members of the 60th anniversary, 60th anniversary party event. We very much appreciate it. If you bring some of the flair and fashion that you have always to the party, it'd be spectacular as well. That's why. That's part of the reason why. Is there anything else, Edie?
Yes, sir, Chair. I didn't know you were going to put Commissioner Holmes on the committee, but we'll make the necessary adjustments.
Okay. Any questions about the 60th anniversary event? February seems like a long time from now, but it's not that far away. So, okay, community engagements.
Okay, you all can hear me? Okay, last Saturday we celebrated with the Celebrate Nashville, which featured more than 30 countries this year. We had an incredible time learning about our neighbors and friends in the city of Nashville. Kathy was the MC again this year, and she presented performances from China, Ireland, Mexico, India, and several other local musicians. We invite you all to mark your calendars for next year's event. It really is an epic event. She was also featured on This Is Nashville, so you can go to their website or ours to see the interview that she participated in for the This Is Nashville, and that was last week as well. And the last thing is for the FILA Awards, we are accepting not applications, but nominations for those up until the 13th. You can go to our website to sign up someone for those awards. Any questions?
Yes. Did we send them the Tennessee Human Rights Day?
We may have. If not, I will. I don't remember, but if not, I will. And
Tennessee Human Rights Day is coming up also, and we're in need of nominations for individuals for 3 types of awards. One would be lifetime achievement, one is an up and coming, and the other one identifies a particular person for some event they did toward human rights. We'll send you that if we didn't, but if you know of some persons, and I would suggest persons also not in Nashville, people across the state who are involved in human rights. That's been one of the things over time, is that it is overrepresented by people in Nashville, and there are often people all over the state that are doing valuable work. So hopefully, you know some folks around the state that we could get nominations for. We're co-sponsor. The Tennessee Human Rights Commission is the primary sponsor for the Human Rights Day that comes up every year, but MHRC works with them on the planning of that.
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you, Edie Tucker. Are there any other announcements in terms of community engagement up and coming? So we are still waiting for Commissioner Abolfazi to come before we can start with deliberations and other items on the agenda. Yes.
The conciliation agreement update, Ashley can go ahead and give that if that's okay, because it doesn't require a vote or anything, but it's to bring you up to date where we are with the agreement.
Okay. Matthew, are you okay with that? The recording's going? Okay, excellent.
All right. Hello. Let me get situated. Okay. So one element of the conciliation agreement is about the establishment of a working group. And the conciliation agreement requires me as a member of the working group and the Arts Commission representative to update our respective commissions approximately every 60 days, with one of those first updates being in October. So this is me giving you an update about the working group specifically. So the working group's purpose is to identify a mechanism for direct payments to individual and independent artists that is compliant with Metro Code and the Tennessee state laws, which both require Arts Commission grants to go to nonprofit organizations. Traditionally, this has been done through the Thrive grant program, which has utilized direct payments to artists via the procurement process, which is not an option to continue using anymore. So this working group is to figure out how to maintain that program. We've talked about this before. So the conciliation agreement formed a working group. It includes myself representing our commission. It also includes interim executive director of Metro Arts, Dr. Paulette Coleman. It includes assistant director of finance, Amanda Deaton-Moyer, senior counsel from Metro Legal, Macy Amos, and a community member whose name is Dr. Megan Jordan, who is representing an artist perspective. And as an attorney for the Arts Commission, Tessa Ortiz-Marsh from Metro Legal is also a participant in the group. So we've had 4 meetings so far. The first 2 were mostly procedural. We discussed and came up with the process for how we would elect the artist representative. We discussed our scope of work, the timelines that we are bound to by the agreement, and that sort of thing. So pretty procedural in nature. And then in our most recent 2 meetings, we really began deliberating on 2 possible paths forward. One of those paths being for Metro Arts to partner with one nonprofit to serve as the fiscal sponsor to administer the Thrive Grant program. And the second potential path forward being each Thrive applicant to identify their own nonprofit fiscal agent. And at this point, we are leaning toward the second option, but still in the development and exploratory phase. And having discussions about things like accessibility, how administrative costs would play into that, and trying to be as intentional as we can about how we best address artists and community needs while creating something that still meets all of the requirements that we must meet for Metro. So again, that path forward that we're leaning toward is for each applicant to identify a fiscal agent of their choice. And so I want to emphasize that we're considering this as like a transitional year. I've been calling it like a stopgap option or a stopgap measure for now for how to administer Thrive grants this year, because the grant cycle is already delayed of what it is typically or what it has been in the past. And so what we're coming up with this year is by no means permanent or bound to repeat as is in future years. And I know that one of my goals is to come up with something that keeps the Thrive Awards on the same timeline as the General Operating Awards, so that organization grants are not moving forward while the individual artist grants are still asking, what are we doing? So that's the update on the working group. You can find written updates on the Metro Arts website as well. And so we're doing public updates that are similar to what I just articulated here. And so I'll just end by giving you an update on the dissemination of the conciliation monies that were part of the agreement. And so Metro Legal sent notices to the 39 recipients who were eligible to receive funding through the conciliation agreement specifically. And then I've spent a good amount of my time in the last 2 weeks calling people, finding people, calling them who hadn't responded to those award letters yet, and just trying to make sure that people know that there is money that is authorized to support their work. And so the status of where we are today is that there's just one muralist who we haven't had any communication with. There are 13 who are somewhere in the payment process of that routing process, and $374,000 of the $565,000 has been paid out. So that's about 66% of what we negotiated has been paid out so far. So assuming those 13 who are in the pipeline of the payment process all go through, then we are very close to 100%. And so I'll just end by saying, I've really enjoyed being able to call people and tell them the good news, right? And so it's been nice and delightful to hear a little bit about what the artists are planning, and just to, be the delivery servicer of good news after the year plus of what's been happening. So that is my update for you. And that's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you for the continuous work on this as we move forward. Are there any questions about the update?
Ashley, about the recommendation for the funding stream moving forward, and you said you were leaning toward option 2, which was for the artists to pick their own nonprofits to serve as a fiscal agent. Is there going to be some like resource for them, a list of potential nonprofits for them to pick from? Because some of them may not know nonprofits, they may not know how to navigate that world, and anything that we can do to help them do that more smoothly.
Yeah. Just making sure I can answer the question to the individual commissioner, correct? Yes. Okay. Yes. So based on the applications that were submitted in last year, I would say, it appears that some of the applicants likely may already have organization connections that they spoke about in their application. Of course, that's not going to be everybody. That's why the whole purpose of this grant was formed as it was, so that you can be without an organization and still access it. So that's a good example of one of the things that we are are very aware is a barrier. And so that's one of the solutions that that we know should be in place, whether that's like vetted possible agencies who, are in that area of work, who care about artist development and professional development and such. But it's all very preliminary, so I'm not, I don't have names that I can share right now. But if any of y'all are people who have connections in that ecosystem, that you think organizations might be interested in supporting Nashville's artists in that way, definitely happy to talk with you more, because that's the purpose of this interdisciplinary, I guess, group is for us to be like engaging the interests that we represent throughout this. And so, yeah.
Commissioner McKinney?
Yeah, one other question is just curious to know, just to get a sense of how involved the payment administration might be. Are they reimbursement grants, or do we get to just advance money based on proposals?
Yeah, so for the conciliation agreements, like the numbers I named at the end, those are all, payments that are being processed as grants, awards. So yes, the conciliation payments are all, if it's a $20,000 grant, it's a $20,000 payment that's
Right
being
out the
authorized.
door all at once.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's for what is the conciliation payments. So what Metro Arts does in the future is not anything that we are involved. So it might look different in the future. I'm not sure is what I'm saying. But for what we do have direct involvement in, those dollars that I named at the end are all payments for folks to do their work.
Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Stringer Holmes?
Two things. One, is there like a payment, a processing fee or anything like that the artists have to incur regarding receiving the money from one, since it's not a direct payment? Is there like PayPal or something? You know how you have the fee charge? Is there anything like that with that?
Like with these
Funding.
setups of using fiscal
Yeah.
agents, that's something that we have to figure out and talk about of how that, does Metro have rules and regulations around that? What are they? And so it's a question that's been asked, but I don't have an answer for you right now. I can tell you, my goal is to, keep those costs as much as we can from not being the applicant that incurs them, right?
Okay. A suggestion, something that I would like to see, I know others would like to see this, as maybe like a closure to how we are moving forward. But if we could get like updates and snippets from the artists doing art, we're not used to seeing artists having to fight like this and everything, to kind of bring everyone together. Is that something that we or the Arts Commission could facilitate to be part of the future campaigns or something like that?
Yeah, so one way that I could answer this, and I haven't talked to them about this specifically, but a deliverable in the conciliation agreement is for like a community engagement plan to be drafted and shared with us by October the 15th. So that's in a week. And so I expect that there will be some good ideas in that. And I've been in touch with so many of the artists as well through this process. And, we could highlight them in like our newsletter, or just find ways to do our part in sort of supporting them as well. I count to 10. Yay.
We have quorum. Are there any other questions about the updates? So I have one question, Ashley, which is, as we move forward, the MHRC's role, all this goes into, like, is it Metro Arts or Finance who will be dealing with the financing of this? And our role is just to help, to be on this committee and to see this out and through, right, the conciliation agreement.
Yeah, it's really what is stated for each element in in the agreement. And so like for the working group, it is to determine a mechanism to get through this year. There's some specific deliverables with deadlines about submitting a preliminary plan to the Arts Commission by a given date, because that's the body who will have to vote on it, right? If they hate what we came up with and they say no, then that puts the working group back to the drawing board and likely behind on our deadline. So that's the point of these interim updates to you all. So Dr. Coleman, interim director of the Arts Commission, will be giving an update at their next commission meeting, which is next Thursday. And so there's another deadline in the conciliation agreement, for example, that if we come up with anything that requires council approval, that needs to be submitted by the first council meeting in January. And then for other elements of the agreement, it should be spelled out, or other elements of things to happen, it should be spelled out in the agreement, like the community engagement plan that I mentioned. Does that answer your question?
Well, let me say a comment more particularly to, I think, what you're asking. We will be monitoring this. I'm interested to see what this upcoming allocation will be, as opposed to what the allocation was that necessitated everything that happened to get us to this conciliation agreement. Yes, we will remain vigilant as it relates to the way to ensure that everybody's getting equal access to government funds.
Great, thank you. Okay. We have quorum. We'll start the official meeting, but before we move on, it was an auspicious day today when I saw Davy Tucker in the streets of East Nashville today. It's his birthday, so please, everyone, wish E.D. Tucker a happy birthday.
Wow. Thank you.
We won't do a song or dance, but
Thank you. I'm grateful for 64 years one more time around. I'm clear I have more behind me than I have in front of me. So I'm just hoping to finish strong, but thank you.
To another journey around the sun. Here we go. All right, let's begin this meeting. I call this meeting to order. Pursuant to the provisions of 2.68.030 of the Metro Code of Laws, please take notice that decisions of the Metro Human Relations Commission may be appealed to the Chancery Court of Davidson County for review under a common law writ of curatoriari. Any appeal must be filed within 60 days after entry of a final decision by the commission. Any person or other entity considering an appeal should consult with an attorney to ensure that time and procedural requirements are met. And I am confirming quorum that we have 10, more than 9.5. Thank you, Commissioner Abufazi, for driving in. Are there any public comments? No public comments. Review and approval of minutes. Are there any questions or changes to be made to the minutes? I personally don't see any. If I can get a motion, if there are no changes. I have a motion, seconded. All those who approve the minutes, please raise your hands. It looks unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to the next item on the agenda is a financial update.
You should have included in your packet the standard form that lists in the first column our current year budget, how it's allocated, and how we spend it monthly. If there are any questions, I can entertain them, but beyond salaries is the largest portion of our expenditures, but you can see the various categories in which our budget is broken down. You see our total budget this year is $1,067,200, which is a $260,000 increase from last year, and an additional 260 or so thousand from the previous year. So in 2 years, we have been able to double our budget.
I have a quick question.
Yes, Commissioner Abelfaz and then Commissioner Teague.
Thank you for asking for those totals at the bottom. Love to see that. That's really helpful. I appreciate that. And this is a huge feat because I think when you and I started, it was like less than $500,000 in
Yes.
total budget.
It
So,
was.
congratulations. Well done. I think that's incredible.
But I think that's a us.
Yeah,
it's a
congratulations,
us-assist.
everyone. Well
Congratulations.
done. That's a huge thing. It was tiny when we first started. I'm so excited to see these totals. Thank you.
Commissioner Teague.
Just one quick question. Under the regular pay, August seems to be very high compared to July and September.
That would be primarily, there was the cost of living and the merit raises that went into effect. The budget became active July 1, and then as they processed the pay,
Okay, any other questions about the budget? Thank you, Edie Tucker. We're gonna move on to old business here, of the director's salary increase. I don't know if that exactly is the right term, increase, but previously we had voted, for Edie Tucker's salary to be a certain amount. If you remember, Commissioner Buggs, you were the one who suggested the amount. But that is not, exactly how things work math-wise, according to Metro. So I will let Edie Tucker update on this issue and explain some of it for us.
according to HR, that there is typically a 15% maximum for ED's pays to be adjusted. But there's always the caveat that the mayor can waive whatever. In my conversations with them, I'm not seeking a waiver, and I don't think that would be in the best interest of MHRC to make this a hill to die on. We've agreed that with this 15%, it would go to 160, and the next year is coming up, and with another 15%, it would go to 184. I'm good with that. That would be barring I don't mess up so bad between now and next year that that would render that non-applicable.
Right. So the previous vote that we had, I think it was at 214.
214, yes.
But now it's actually, because of the way that Metro Code's pay raises are structured, it would need a waiver
yes,
from the mayor.
And I just want to be clear, I don't think it's code more so than it being policy and practice. But even in the conversation, there was relationship between other boards and commissions and other EDs, some with larger departments and all of the back and forth with that. So what I'm saying to you is I'm okay with the 15% and just keep it moving again.
So I will say that I appreciate that very much, Edie Tucker, and all the work that's been done as we grow and become more significant and have more leverage in the city in terms of advancing what we believe in as a commission. I truly appreciate this. And now it's up to us we have to vote in order to kind of follow the 15% procedure. And if we can get a motion to have an open range merit increase of 15% effective of July 1st, 2024, 25? 2024. Now, right away.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question first before we vote? So I think I understand 15% increase year over year. Are there any, I don't know, salary range caps or anything like that with Metro that we need to be aware of, kind of going into the discussion?
Yes, well, actually, the salary range, they give you a long range,
Okay,
and that range tops out at 214.
okay.
And that's what this commission voted on, was the 214. And that's the practice is, it's normally, raises are normally not that huge in Metro. And so as a result of that, that's where we're at now.
Okay, thank you.
But let's give some context to this. So, because he's new and he doesn't know that's still much lower than some of your counterparts. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I just wanted to, I want you to be noble, but at the same time, it's okay to get you paid.
Well, I'm not that noble, just to be clear. This is probably more strategic than anything else. It is not a thing of nobility.
No, I'm just saying, I get it. I'm understanding that you don't want to, I get it. But I do believe the work that has been put in and what you have done on the forefront in relation to the white male counterparts that are, it's still not an equitable situation. So even though we're gonna agree on it, we also need to know that in that agreement, you're still not up to the pay that others are receiving.
Yeah,
For context.
The range, I mean, maybe it's 214 is the higher range within what you're in, but the range of EDs in Metro goes to 600?
No, I would probably say the highest would be a little over 350.
Okay, thank you. See,
Yeah.
John, I remember. So 354
Yes.
and 160, 140 was like the lowest of the low, right? That's what I remember. We're going off our memory, but we had a scale. And so even as much as we tried to get it closer to some of the other competitive ranges, it's still the low end of it.
And if I may, are we okay that this 15% cap on the increases has been applied consistently across Metro? Or do
No,
we have
it
any
hasn't.
sense of that?
No. And the only reason why I'm bringing this up, and I just want it to be part of our discussion, is because as we fight for equity and equality, pay ways, the whole, cost of living and everything, we are still having to tiptoe around the issue of making sure everyone is at the table getting the same menu. So I don't want chicken wings and you eating tenderloin. So I just wanted to make sure that we've had that conversation. But as we are agreeing to agree, but that's not what I feel is the right thing from my perspective. That, I just want to put that out there.
And I appreciate that,
Okay,
Commissioner Holmes. I really do.
thank you.
I mean, it's basically like, just because you're okay with it doesn't mean it's okay. That's basically the point. I'm confused about how you go from 214 to like 354. Is that another grade level?
No. If you look across, there is some logic when you look at some of the ED pays that are held in two primary positions, DPO1 and DPO2, and you see which departments have that. To some, there is something about size and budget and those other things that fall into that. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Oh, yes.
Appreciate the comments from the other commissioners and Executive Director Tucker. Appreciate your straightforwardness about a sort of a combination of nobleness, to use the word from the other side, nobleness and strategery. Listening to this, I think it's appreciating your weighing of those two things and what you feel is appropriate and what you're comfortable with in that sort of balance of nobleness and strategy, and then being explicit in our own statement about our own intention to keep on following this up until it is the way that it should be, right? So it's appreciating your understanding of the sort of nuances of the situation and bringing that to our attention, but then also saying to ourselves, okay, we're raising this, we're intentional about it now, and now let's just keep on being intentional about it from this point forward.
I appreciate these comments and gathering from all the comments. I think we'll keep intentionally working on this. Very much in appreciation of E.D. Tucker, as well as the staff. We will continue to work on this with the staff as well, which has already been in motion, if I'm correct. And we'll continue to be explicit about this, even though we are agreeing to this today. So we very much appreciate you, E.D. Tucker, and all the work that's been done. And commissioners, yes, we do need a motion. And I see Dakota, ready to go.
I love making motions. All right, so I would like to make a motion. I would like to make a motion to grant Executive Director Tucker an open range merit increase of 15% effective July 1st, 2024, dependent on the department's ability to fund.
I grudgingly be second that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Bucks. We have, yes. Yes. Those in favor of Dakota's motion, please raise your hands. I think that is unanimous across the board, begrudgingly, but yes. No noes and no abstentions. Okay. Thank you very much for all of that. And then now we move on to new business of the violence interruption campaign, which E.D. Tucker will provide updates for.
Yes, if you all are probably familiar with some of the violence interruption efforts that have gone on here in recent years, while we can't wait, Gideon's Army, and some others. We have them here with us tonight. MHRC was asked by Councilmember Toombs, and we've been in conversation with Metro Finance and Director Darby of the Metro Council about MHRC's ability and desire to facilitate the violence interruption grant to Gideon's Army, particularly for $750,000, and MHRC would manage that. We've done the preliminary legwork. Daniel Yoon in our office will be the primary person, excuse me, responsible for the contract. I'll also be involved, but he will be the person who will handle the particulars of that. A little bit of history behind why I think this is important. If you go back, even prior to my being on this commission, MHRC was an early advocate for violence interruption. MHRC has been a early advocate not only for violence interruption, but for alternative ways to policing to increase public safety. That would be inclusive of the COB. That would be inclusive of actually suggesting policy changes to MMPD. MHRC developed what was called the Mobile Diversity Tour that we did for a few years with the police department until they felt that it was too intense for their officers, and they've created a watered-down version of that now. I say all that to say that that's been part of the history of the work that we've done. We feel confident that we can manage this program. There's also the administrative fee that comes with it that would allow for us to hire someone for the 2-year period to assist Daniel in doing it. We feel confident that we can come up to speed, particularly on the one hand around the procurement processes, but also the other hand around what effective violence interruption looks like. And so what we're asking for, after you asked all your questions, is we're asking for your permission to proceed with seeing if we can negotiate a contract to take on this responsibility. And I would hope that you would, and we're ready to answer whatever questions to hopefully convince you to give us a positive vote in that regard.
Before we move on, is there any time sensitivity to any of this in terms of?
Yes, these funds were allocated, if I'm not mistaken, in FY '22, part of the COVID funds that came to the city. They are running out at the end of this year. From my conversations with Director Darby of the council, they plan on introducing a resolution the first meeting in November. And we would need to maybe not necessarily have the contract finalized per se, but we definitely need the permission of the commission to continue.
Okay, so should we let our guests speak now, or should we have field questions now?
Well, we invited them in case there was some questions.
Okay.
But if we would like to field the questions,
Okay.
and if they are needed at that point, then yes.
Okay. So are there any questions from our commissioners here? Commissioner Abu-Fazi.
Okay, present to the fact that it's 5:14. All I will say is grant management is a serious business, as we all know. I guess my biggest thing is, and don't hate me, Rashida, for saying this, but make sure that, and I guess we can talk about this more, but make sure that there is clarity from the grantor and the grantee's perspective of what, not deliverables, because it's not a contract, but what outcomes we're trying to achieve and how those are measurable, if they are measurable.
Well, we met today, but we've been talking for the last week. And if you recall in my resume, I have managed 2 $5 million grants with American Baptist College from the Lilly Foundation and from the Department of Transportation. We met today with Daniel, myself, and Courtney Teasley and Rashida to talk about those very same things, to go over the contract, to make sure that there is a clear understanding of what's expected and the issues as procurement has already outlined in the contract. They sent us the same contract that Why We Can't Wait has as the guideline of what this contract would look like. So we're getting those questions, places where there are clear, where there isn't clarity, and we do have questions that we have sent out to the Department of Finance to get answers. Also, Matthew is assisting in the parts around legal that we may or may not know, and we've talked with him.
Thank you. Other questions?
Yeah, I think I heard you say the funds need to be expended by end of the year. Just a little clarification about what that means. Typically, I understand that to mean funds need to be obligated, usually by a contract agreement, by a certain date.
Yes.
And then you have more time to actually, spend it through the duration of a contract. Is that right?
Yes, and you actually said it more technically in the correct way. Yes, the funds must be obligated by the end of the year. They will not all be appropriated as a lump sum. You are correct. It is a 2-year grant.
Okay.
That would commence before the end of the year.
Got it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. So we need a motion to vote on in order to move forward with this agreement, right? As the
Yes.
contract continues to be hammered out, so that it can be voted by council in November. Yeah, right?
Yes.
Yes. So, if there anyone willing to make a motion?
Very bad at Robert's rules. I move the motion to approve the $750,000 grant administration, for
interruption.
violence administration on behalf of MMHRC.
I happily second.
A distinction from begrudgingly.
We have an adverbial motion, second motion, as always, begrudgingly and happily. Yes, yes. I like it. So, let's vote on this. For Commissioner Abufazi's, motion to move forward with this, to hammer out this agreement, for MHRC to administer this. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay. It is unanimous, no noes and no abstentions. Thank you all. And then the final item to cover today is the No Hate campaign. Again, Edie Tucker.
All right. And I do want to recognize that reps from Gideon's Army are here, and if they're around after the meeting, that if you all would want to talk to them or anything like that.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming.
This, we have been back and forth all over the place around how to begin this hate campaign thing. Trying to narrow down the focus around how we best feel that MHRC could contribute to an overall awareness and education around hate. What you have on the Humans Over Hate that would be in your package would be the general description of the events that we would like to plan. The main issue is the idea of a program called No Hate on My Plate, which a local Muslim group, Daoud, I cannot think of his last name, began, that really seeks to just get desperate groups of people to sit down around a meal with the singular purpose of learning something else about a person that you didn't. And we think that if we could create this in the way in which we have it outlined here, that that would be one of the ways in which we approach this. But also inside of this is our Just Conversations episodes, which we would focus around hate-related issues. And as we begin to schedule those out, we will be looking for input from you also. One of the things that I've been fretting with, as this has seemed to occupy a significant part of my mind, is that so often groups who experience hate can also be haters. And the paradox of that, to be an oppressed group that also oppresses. And so as we delve deeper into this, we're looking at various ways to begin conversations. We gave you the outline a few months back of the One City Academy, which was supposed to be this civic engagement to teach individuals and expose them to various aspects of the civic process, particularly here in Nashville. Well, we're also looking at possibly altering this to talk about hate from the standpoint of the types of hate. You have laws against hate, but more than anything else, you have incidents of hate that often don't result to the level of a crime. So even as we go along, we're still trying to build this out, but this would be a general understanding of what it is that we're trying to do. We have an event called Friendsgiving, which will be on the yard of the courthouse, November 21. For many of you who knew Randy Rayburn from Midtown, he was an individual that I always found hospitable. His family responded very quickly and has allowed us to attach his name to this event, which will also help us long term in that we are trying to have a No Hate Mondays where we would have local chefs host a meal somewhere. We've talked to our own Commissioner Buggs, who, since he's so committed to MHRC, he'll probably do it for free. But again, but we're fortunate in that even as we're moving along with this, the more we set with this, there's always ways in which it can go. And sometimes there are pitfalls. One of the things that I found about hate is a lot like sin. Nobody wants to say what's a sin. A sin is normally downgraded to a mistake or something because sin just sounds so bad. And I think we do the same thing with the word hate. We just won't call things that are hateful hate. And so how can we enter into this conversation, particularly when we have the political rhetoric that we have now that has become commonplace, that to me is just hate. It's just hateful. It's not policy. It is hate. And there are groups that are always identified in that. And so how can MHRC try to bring light to this? How can we educate? How can we make folk aware of sometimes the hate that we participate in ourselves? I think there's a way not to agree with something and not be hateful. You celebrate my birthday today. Well, my birthday happens to be on October 7th. And I've not said anything. And that's what I thought about this morning, was the ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict. But it is such a tinderbox that it's so hard to say anything without it running off on its own. And it ought not be that way for humans against hate. Humans against hate ought to be able to sit down and talk about the hard things. And so this is what we're trying to accomplish with this campaign. And this is our outline that we would like to begin our work doing. And this is just letting you know how we're figuring the costs that are, most of which is in our budget, and then other relationships that we will attempt to leverage as we move along. With the first event being the Friendsgiving on November 21st in front of the courthouse.
And that being 2020, what year? This
This
coming
November 21st.
In 6
Yes.
weeks.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. Questions, comments?
Crystal said she could pull it
Adverbs.
off. Crystal said we could pull it off. So now it's on the record. So that we can ask them particularly to weigh in. We think that with the community organizations there are some that are specifically geared around hate, but there are other community organizations that we hope will lend their co-sponsorship to this.
Is there a target number of participants in the meal? Or is it just, we don't know yet?
Well, I think the target would be based on the medium in which we use. When you talk about the No Hate on My Plate, it would be the number of dinners, but to keep them intimate. I mean, 1,000-person dinner seems unmanageable for a casual conversation. So hopefully we'll be able to get these going where they're going all the time in the city, and we can keep count of them. And that's what one thing that these community organizations could do is agree to sponsor one of these meals. And so that's why we need your help in gathering names of orgs that we may not be associated with right now to bring them into it. There's also a faith element that will be a significant part of this across the board. And there's a couple faith organizations that have agreed to partner with us, to IMF being one, to explore that with IMF, it would be primarily toward Christianity in the Black church, but the West Nashville Clergy Coalition, which is a primarily white organization, has shown some interest also. So as we pick up these organizations, hopefully these meals can start to happen. I fundamentally feel that getting people around a table to a meal can have a immeasurable impact on our ability to understand each other. Yes, but if we charge tickets, it's got to be a ticket that somebody wants to buy. We're also working with Mojo Marketing around doing the PR with the Humans Over Hate campaign. So we're actually looking for sponsorships, significant sponsorships, and we would need working with Metro Finance on what that would look like when organizations would want to contribute to this. Where would that money be housed? How would we access that money? And the nuts and bolts behind that. But yes, I guess, like when we have the Nashville renowned chef Marcus Buggs, who sponsors a meal.
Begrudgingly.
Begrudgingly. But I'm saying somebody might want to buy a ticket to that. Yeah. Yeah.
We can ask for a sliding donation or something like that, yeah. Ticket of admission, yeah. Things to be worked out. Yes.
So what's the cost to MHRC for these events? Did you say there was a cost? I thought I heard you say it was a cost, but then, I mean, looking in here,
Yes.
it seems like we would have sponsors for food, locations, moderators, staff time. So is that what you're saying would cost MHRC to throw the events, or what? I'm not
Well, the
following.
ones where we're looking for funders for host, that would be the cost that we're looking for those. But there will be a yet unknown number that would come out of our budget. If you look in our budget, we have spaces for events and stuff like that. And we would be as frugal as possible of not spending so that we'll have money that to stay within our budget for the year. So we're hoping that maybe the funds that we have to expend up front will solicit the responses that you're talking to that would give us the funders that we need to be able to move with this. We're hoping that it'll catch fire. Interestingly, this month is the 25th anniversary of Gladwell's book, The Tipping Point. And I think it's apropos to this. You know, why do some things make it? Why do some things don't? We're hoping that this hate campaign could take on a life of its own, that it would be a campaign that would ultimately have public service announcements and all those accompanying accoutrements.
Yes.
I wanted just for clarity for me. So the funders for moderators is $350 per event. Is that the person that's, help me with that?
That would be, there are several different models. One is called, that the city uses, what is it, conscious conversations. They follow a certain format. And so you need someone who can facilitate those type meetings.
Okay.
And we want to be able to give them something for their expertise in moderating it under prescribed questions, not to start arguments, but only to begin and to facilitate open, honest discussions if you can create a space where people feel safe.
Okay, and then the funders gonna train the staff? So would the staff be running the social media campaign, or are you gonna have someone else doing that? It says here under moderators and training for moderators, creating, editing, and posting content.
That would work both ways. A lot
Okay.
of that would primarily be in-house.
Okay, all right. And then, the food location, are we paying the restaurant or the host the $750? Is that what I'm seeing here?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
all right, thank you.
Other questions? What do you need us to deliberate on? Right
Well, we
today?
don't need you to really deliberate on anything right now because we're still moving forward. We
Okay.
have the event scheduled for the 21st. Just as this continues to grow, there may come a time when we need to ask for a particular amount of money out of our budget that you may need to vote for.
Okay.
But this falls well within what we feel is part of our overall plan of what we think we can bring to the city, particularly at this given time.
Yes. Yes.
So how many people are you anticipating being at each one of these? 20 to 50, I mean, that seems like a lot to me. And-
Is this including food as well? I know.
Yeah, but that's kind of, yeah, I'm like, that
If
doesn't
we
seem
get,
like a lot.
say we get some noted chef, and over in my neighborhood, Lachlan Table does this type meal that's always full. If you don't get a ticket early, you don't get in. So again, I'm thinking that if we get the right chef that agrees to sponsor one of these, and we have chefs in Nashville that agree to take this on to be a sponsor, that it could catch fire. It may not catch fire, is what I'm also saying.
With you host, with the inaugural event in honor of Randy Rayburn, I think the restaurants, community, those that are served by Homes Pest Control, would get behind this. So,
Well, one of the things that we are doing and that Mojo Marketing is helping us with is we will be meeting with the 2 or 3 major associations around the hospitality industry to see if they will take this on as a support and could also be a conduit for us to engage chefs who would do this.
Excellent. So we'll have opportunities to be updated on this at the executive XCOM meeting, which we're not having next week, but we're going to try to push it to October 25th. We will also be holding our monthly meeting the night before the election. I know that some members of our commission will not be available, but hopefully we will have quorum to conduct.
Do not call me for quorum that night. Thank you very much.
We will not call you. We will not call you. But thank you all for coming. This is extremely important work, and I appreciate you all, and thank you for driving this. And can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting, please?
Second.
Second, okay. All those in favor? Yay. All right. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.